Hey guys, it's me Meteor, and welcome to another edition of What is Kirby Canon? Today we're going to be talking about Fecto Elfilis. They say there are two sides to every story. This is especially true with Fecto Elfilis, as they are comprised of two separate beings, Elfilin and Fecto Forgo. That wasn't always the case though. When Elfilis first arrived in the New World, they immediately began to destroy it. Eventually, they were captured by native researchers, taken to Lab Discovera, and placed inside the Eternal Capsule for testing. After one of these tests went wrong, Elfilin would finally separate and flee from Forgo 30 years later. Countless years after those events, when the world has been completely abandoned by its natives, Forgo remained in stasis, with Elfilin nowhere to be found. However, despite appearing inert all those years, Forgo was anything but. As their figure explains, they were dreaming. But unlike normal dreams, Forgos are a bit more lively, spreading powerful psychic waves across the planet. Over time, these waves became strong enough to control the animals, along with their leader, Leongar. He then began speaking in a language the animals no longer understood, yet despite this, he was still able to successfully create the Beast Pack. Along with capturing the Waddle Dees and using them for slave labor, the Beast Pack's main goal, or rather Forgo's, was to track down Elfilin and take him back to Lab Discovera. You see, when Elfilin escaped, Forgo didn't just lose power, they became completely unstable. The Japanese text for Fecto Forgo even states they wouldn't be able to sustain themselves outside of the capsule for very long. Forgo probably could have escaped a long time ago if they wanted, but ultimately knew their fate if they did. That would make it much more frustrating to be treated like a carnival attraction, hearing that annoying sound loop day in and day out. Who knows how many years that played after Elfilin's escape. Eternal echoes indeed. Despite all that, Forgo still maintained a heavy amount of self-discipline. For example, it states when Elfilin first split off from Forgo, they were no longer able to control their spatial teleportation ability, and random vortices appeared. However, Forgo states they intentionally opened a vortex to obtain a workforce, which is obviously the vortex Kirby flew through at the beginning of the game. Clearly, Forgo was spending a lot of time focusing to control and improve their power, with or without Elfilin. Knowing this really shows the level of desperation Forgo must have had after Leongar's defeat. No more patience. They would rather die attempting to get Elfilin than spend any more time in that tube. Forgo literally cracked. Of course, due to how much energy is required to remain stable outside of the tube, they needed to absorb the energy of their hosts to prolong their life just a bit longer. Needless to say, the risk paid off and Forgo got exactly what they wanted, and once again became the complete Fecto Elfilis, the being that originally attacked the planet. It does raise the question, however, how come Elfilin was never unstable? And why is he so different from Forgo? Perhaps the answer is the same for both. Elfilin was born from a small, compassionate soul that still existed in Forgo, one that had no ambition for invasion. In fact, while Forgo was cooped up, festering its feelings all those years, Elfilin was out making friends, playing with the other animals. Losing that bit of goodness is what caused Forgo to become unstable. If the theories are true, this reminds me a bit of Void. Those who obtained positive energy, like Kirby, are stable in form, whereas those who obtained negative energy, like dark matter, are a formless cloud. Main difference being that dark matter never went so unstable that it would simply cease to exist. Then again, neither would Forgo, but for a different reason. You see, during the battle with Fecto Elfilis, Kirby manages to free Elfilin once again. Becoming unstable and near death once again, Elfilis opens a vortex to Popstar to have the two planets crash together, destroying everyone with them. Obviously, Kirby and Elflin managed to stop them before it could happen. But really, Forgo would have survived no matter the result. How? I mentioned earlier that Forgo's dreams were a bit more lively than normal dreams. That's because Forgo's dreams are literally a different world. Every single memory Forgo had, or even possibly the memories of those it controlled, can become physically manifest here. Apparently, this also includes their mind. Even though Kirby and Elflin defeated Forgo physically, Forgo's mind was able to escape to within its own dreams. Beyond that, Forgo was able to take Leon's physical body with them and replace his light force with theirs, splitting his soul across their dreams. How does one even defeat something like that? Not even Morphinite, the fluttery collector of souls, was able to keep the thing contained for very long. Even worse, upon defeat, Forgo retains the souls of all those who came its way, including Morphonites. Using that power, along with everything else obtained, they would become more powerful than ever before and emerge as Chaos Elfilis. Who needs Elflin when you have the power of judgment in your hands? With the body removed though, their essence becomes that of many other Kirby bosses we've seen, a floating, bouncing orb. This no longer seems to be a coincidence. On the contrary, we may even have the reason why everything looks that way. This is where things get interesting. The accident that led to Elflin's original escape wasn't just caused by any experiment. This experiment was a result of scientists studying their spatial teleportation abilities. Abilities they reverse engineered and used themselves to escape from the dwindling planet. I do find it interesting the Japanese version refers to the planet as a star, similar to other Kirby games. However, that's not all. Creating ships that can summon interdimensional portals, we may very well have the origin story of the Ancients here. While we still don't get any confirmation on what they look like, we do get confirmation of their height. Danius, who provides the Spanish subtitles in this series, also dumped some of the textures from Forgotten Land. This sign from Wendaria is particularly interesting. The measurements it gives for the ride are human measurements. For those unfamiliar with the metric system, it equates to around 3 to 6 feet. So much for Kirby being 8 inches tall. It gets better though. In my Sentient Machines episode, I theorized that the Ancients may have based their technology on Void, such as the stuff powering the Nova and Superstar Ultra. Well, that wasn't entirely accurate. Seems they instead based it on Fecto Elfilis, at least initially. However, it's entirely possible the Ancients inadvertently based it off Void. How? Well, we know Elfilis doesn't come from the world we see in Forgotten Land. It was just another target in their line of invasions. How many planets did they come across before then? How many other creatures? Could one of the creatures they consumed be a remnant of Void, such as a stray Darkheart? At the very least, if the attacks we see from Chaos Elfilis were only obtained after absorbing Morphinite, and possibly Galactonite as a result, it would further prove the connections to Void those may have. In fact, thanks to Kirby's power of miracles, Elfilis, like Void, was even reborn after their defeat, becoming a small being of light that merges with Elflin to become whole again. Or shall we say, wholesome. Not sure when we'll see Elflin again, but I hope it's soon. At least now, according to Bandanity, they have a stable connection between worlds. Also, with the Beast Pack no longer under the influence of Forgo, Waddle Dee Town is no longer in danger. So why is Meta Knight still on the lookout? Can never be too safe, I guess. One small question remains though. How does Waddle Dee Town even exist? Waddle Dees never entered the picture until Popstar's vortex was opened. Yet, when Kirby arrived, there was enough time for the town to not just be built, but also destroyed in the same time frame. Also, the figure of DDD states he waited a while for Kirby to show up and got upset when he never did. According to an interview from Nintendo Dream, that was a period of several months. How is that even possible? Well, As much as I try to avoid real-world science for video games, it could very well explain it here. That vortex we see in the intro doesn't look like a random portal from the Lore Starcutter, or any ancient device for that matter. The way that thing is sucking up everything on the planet, that's more like a black hole. Why does that matter? Because in real-world science, there's the theory the closer one is to a black hole, the slower time moves. For them. If someone were able to watch from outside, it would appear as if they were moving in slow motion. In this sense, what may seem like a few minute difference is substantially longer. Combine that with the fact there are multiple vortices that opened around the same time. We can see 2 here. It isn't much of a stretch to say DDD's castle was targeted first, especially considering it would be the main source of Forgo's workforce. Even if all the vortices opened at the same time across Popstar, DDD falling into it even a few seconds earlier would make enough of a difference for this to make sense. With that in mind, it makes you wonder how long it took Elflin to say thank you when sacrificing his power to close the vortex in question. Interesting turn of events though, instead of Kirby having to rest after a great battle, this time it was Elflin who had to do so. Props to Clowerline for nursing him during that time. That wasn't the only life she helped save. After Kirby's failed attempt to bring Leon back to life, Clowerline, along with the rest of the Beast Pack, brought enough soul pieces to Forgo Dreams to bring Leon back to life permanently, allowing the two to be happy partners again. Wait, how did she even get there? It's not like she had a warp star to just fly around in space with. Clockers, maybe? Sure, that sounds plausible, I guess. Anyway, with that, I think we talked about everything we needed to about Fecto Elfilis. See you guys next time.